What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. First off, I do want to say I apologize if you guys can hear the rain or the thundering in the background. It is coming down out here. I've tried to record this video once, but it was so loud in the background that I'm trying again. So I do apologize. It's lightened up a little bit. Hopefully I can get this done before it really starts back. So let's get right into it. Here lately, I've been listening to Todd Chrisley's podcast, Chrisley Confessions. If you do not listen to it, I suggest listen to it. It's always entertaining. In one of the recent podcasts, though, Todd Chrisley talked about his daughter, Lindsey, and why she really quit the show, because there has been a story out there for why she quit the show. According to Todd, that is not the truth. He is tired of sitting on the truth so that a lie can be what's floating around out there. So in this recent podcast, he brought up the things that like Lindsey stated was the reason, and then he tells his reasoning. He tells what he says is the truth, the real reason for why she was no longer on the show, that she allegedly quit the show. So let's get right into it, you guys. Todd says that Lindsey did not leave the family's show Chrisley Knows Best willingly, as she has stated in the past. Instead, Todd claims that the network actually booted Lindsey from the show after she got into an altercation with her stepmom. Also, another reason they wanted to boot her from the show is because she refused to allow them to film a lot about her life, her relationship with Will, a lot about her son. They were not allowed in her home. So the only way she was on the show is if she would meet the family and go somewhere with them, or if she went to their house. She was on the show. However, she wanted to be, from what I understand, she wanted to be recognized as a main cast member. She wanted to get paid the same amount as everyone else. But everyone else was allowing the cameras, into their life way more than she was. And Todd said for 2 years, the network was wanting to take her off as a main cast member. Let's see exactly how he worded it. They wanted to reduce Lindsey's role on the show, so she would not be listed as a main cast member or whatever. So that's what they wanted. And for 2 years, he fought with them. No, that's my daughter. She's going to be listed as a main cast member. She's going to get paid the same as everyone else. We're not doing that. But after the altercation with Julie, things really went south. So this is what he has to say. He says that he has kept a secret since it happened in 2017. But he says he's not going to let someone else's lies make him sit on the truth. He says he's done it long enough. Now, he said that even though Lindsey stated she left the show because it was a toxic work environment for her son Jackson, that's not the reason. That production actually done an investigation to find out if it was a volatile work environment or a bad work environment, and they found no evidence of such. Now, I do want to say, though, when you work with family, there will be arguments, there will be fights. So sometimes it may be a little toxic because you're working with family. Maybe that one day it was a toxic day, it was a bad situation, but to say that the entire environment for all of filming is toxic, I don't know if I believe that. Like I said, you work with family, there's going to be bad days. So he says, she stated that it was a toxic work environment. She's went on interviews where she claims that the reason she quit was because Todd wanted her to film about her divorce and she was not comfortable doing so. So that was one of the reasons that she left. And Todd just says that's not what it is. That Lindsey's contract was not renewed, and he had fought for 2 seasons to keep Lindsey on the show because the former executive of the show's production company, Maverick, did not see the need to have Lindsey on the show if Lindsey was not going to allow them into her home, allow them to document the day-to-day of her marriage and of her child and what was going on in her life. Todd claims that the producers wanted to reduce Lindsey's role on the show, but he refused to allow it. He then brings up the situation that happened with Julie. Mind you, out of all this time that Lindsey has spoke about the show and why she left, she's never really talked too much about it. On the Dr. Phil in 2000, let's see, I think it was 2017. Oh no, I think it was 2019. She went on the Dr. Phil show, and she did say that there was a situation that occurred between her and Julie, but she gave no other details. No other details at all. She just said there was a situation between us. The environment was toxic, and I didn't want to film about my divorce. Now, this is what Todd has to say about that altercation. He said there was a situation between Julie and Lindsey, and he stated that he has witnesses to this, that he has the camera crew, the lighting crew, nannies, everyone that was in his home They witnessed the situation. They all wrote sworn affidavits. They signed them, and he has them. He plans to use the witnesses' affidavits in the deposition for his case. So he says all their stories are the same, that they have the same story that I'm about to tell you guys. The only person that has a different story is Lindsey, according to Todd. He says the only person's story that is different is Lindsey's. So he says that Lindsey went upstairs, got Chloe out of bed, had the makeup artist start getting her dressed and fixing her hair so Lindsey could take a picture with Chloe for her social media post. So it was at 9 o'clock at night. Chloe had been in bed since about 7:30 that evening. And Julie stated that. She said, mind you, it was 9:30 at night. Keep in mind, Chloe has a bedtime of 7:30. This particular day, she had a nosebleed, so she wasn't really feeling well. Julie stated that when Lindsey got her out of bed, Chloe had already, went through her pre-bedtime routine where she has her moisturizer, twisting her hair and putting it in her silk cap. And so she's been in bed for an hour and a half asleep. Had a nosebleed that day. She's already got her hair fixed back in her cap. And then Lindsey goes upstairs and gets her out of bed, according to Todd, and these other 24 people that was in the house. Just so she could have her hair fixed, her makeup done for an Instagram post or for a social media post. So that bothered Julie. So Julie went down to the garage where Todd was, and Julie said, I'm so aggravated, I'm frustrated. Chloe is out of bed because I guess Lindsey needs to take a picture for social media. So I'm frustrated about this. Now, when Lindsey came down the stairs, and she was mad. She said, I'm so effing done with this. I will never do anything for this family again. I'm done with it. So Todd asked her, he said, who are you talking about? And she said, you better get your bitch on a leash. Calling Julie a bitch and telling Todd that he needed to put Julie on a leash. So he said that Julie was standing there, and even though Lindsey had just made this really rude comment to her, Julie just asked Lindsey, why did she get her out of bed? Why did you get her out of bed? It's 9 o'clock at night. She's been in bed for an hour and a half. Why did you do that? And then Lindsey got in Julie's face and said, F you, F you. So Todd said that he looked at Julie and he said, if you let her cuss you like this in your face, in your home, and you don't mop the floor with her butt, that's on you. And I agree with him there. I agree with him. He went on to say that no parent is supposed to have to be disrespected by their child in their own home. They're not supposed to have to be disrespected like that, period. And I agree with that. He said, but with that being said, that's what happened. Lindsey left, but they filmed together the very next day. He said the next day she met up with them. They went and filmed a scene in the bowling alley. It was after that that he heard from her attorney. So he said Lindsey obviously never felt threatened. She didn't feel like it was a hostile work environment because the very next day she came right to work. I apologize if you guys can hear Kennedy. I think she's calling for her dad. Yes, so he said if she was so threatened by Julie or Todd, then why did she come to work the next day? She could have easily texted Todd and said, hey, I'm not coming. I don't feel like it's the best thing for me to do. I'm not coming. But it was after they filmed that scene that he ended up finding out that Lindsey had hired an attorney who was demanding that Lindsey be paid and let out of her show contract so that she was free to work with other networks. Todd said at the time she began eyeing Teen Mom, even though she's not a teen mom. I'm not too shocked about that because I've always wondered, Lindsey and Kale, how did that happen? So I guess that makes sense. Lindsey and Kale, they're good friends. Maybe Kale was saying, hey, if you get out of that contract, maybe I can try to bring you in over here. Because at that time, remember, Lindsey had just announced that her and Will were getting a divorce. She had a small child. So I guess it would kind of make sense, her being a single mom on the show, even though she was not a teen mom. I guess that part wouldn't make sense. But for Kale, I guess I could see why she would think, hey, you're a single woman, small child, get out of that contract. I'll see if I can bring you in over here to help her make money. They're friends, so maybe Kale wanted to do that so that Lindsey would have a way to provide for her child. Now, Todd went on to say that everyone's story is consistent and that Julie is not to blame and that Lindsey was the aggressor. He said, that's what all these statements say. He said, I don't have to lie on my daughter. She is my daughter. I love her. I would like nothing better than for her to accept responsibility for the things that she's done and apologize for it. He also stated that he believes his son Chase should apologize for the things that he has said about Lindsey, because he knows that Chase has. He says, I know that he has said some things that he shouldn't have said, and I think that he needs to apologize as well so the family can move forward. But he said you can't move forward when there's a narrative of a lie that's being told. Everything I'm telling you today is backed up with documents, and I will release those documents if I need to. So he's basically saying, like, Lindsey, you've put out this false narrative for long enough. And I sat back and I didn't say anything. But I'm telling the truth now. And if you come back out and say I'm lying, I will release these affidavits to prove that 24 other people are stating that this is what really happened. Todd also said that there was an investigation done by the production company, and they found that there was no volatile or hostile work environment. So I guess they went through the process to investigate, to figure out if there was an issue, and they said no, that it wasn't. He went on to say Lindsey was the aggressor, and that everything that happened Lindsey provoked, and that she jumped on Julie. Therefore, the network decided to not bring Lindsey back. Now, keep in mind, her contract was still in place. She fought to try to get out of her contract so she could go and do other things, and the network would never release her from the contract, nor would they bring her back on the show. So I get why Lindsey was mad about it. It ended up putting her in a pickle. You know, they wouldn't bring her back on the show. They wouldn't release her from the contract. So she could not go do other things to try to make money. So I do get why Lindsey was a little sour about that. Todd claims that Lindsey was mad that she was kicked off the show. So she enlisted the help of her brother and his wife to help take Todd and Julie down. She used the idea of them getting custody of their daughter Chloe to entice them, according to Todd. He says, we now know that Lindsey went to Kyle and said, if you want to get custody of Chloe back, I can help you. And here's how we'll do it. Todd said that Lindsey's plan was to cause him and Julie to go to jail, because they are the ones that have full-time custody of Chloe. So with them in jail, there will be no one to take care of Chloe. Therefore, she would go back to Kyle, or that was their way of thinking, according to Todd. You know, Kyle's her biological dad. Now, her mother's rights had already been terminated, so she wouldn't get her back. She wouldn't go back to the mom. It would ensure that Kyle would get her back. I guess you could say that. I guess maybe that was their way of thinking, if that was the truth, if that was the case. But I have to say this. Kyle has stated that he was active in his addiction at the time, so he was kind of manipulated by that. He wasn't thinking correctly. But if he was active in his addiction, and say Todd and Julie went to jail, would he have gotten custody back of his daughter? Or what if Todd would have said, listen, we're going to jail, but I need someone else to get custody of Chloe? Kyle's, you know, he's struggling with, you know, addiction right now. So what if, God forbid, she would have ended up in the state, the custody of the state, because Kyle was an addict? So what if what if happened where Todd and Julie would have went to jail? Kyle wouldn't have got her because he was not doing well in his addiction. So what if she would have went into the custody of the state? Now, I don't know if, you know, this is what actually happened with Lindsey and Kyle, and that was their master plan to get rid of Todd. I don't know if that's the case, you know. I am a fan of Todd. He says that he has proof to back these claims up, so I'm kind of leaning, you know, more towards believing that. But that was a big risk to take. Throwing your parents in jail to pay them back for you getting kicked off the show, and then getting your brother's help by telling him you'll get custody back of your daughter. But then what would have happened if he wouldn't have? And then she would have ended up in foster care. That would have been terrible. So I've recorded this twice, so I really don't remember if this was something that I touched on. So I'm going to go ahead and get again. Lindsey states the reason she left the show. These are some of the things that she claims. It was a hostile work environment for her son, for her. Also, I remember watching her in an interview where she said that she was going through a divorce, and Todd wanted that to be showed on the show, and she didn't want it to be showed on the show. So she felt like Todd was trying to exploit her divorce, and she was uncomfortable with that. That upset her. So she has always stated those were her reasons for leaving the show, from my memory and from what she has stated, that I know that she has stated. So Todd says that's not true. Production, they done an investigation. There was no bad work environment. And she didn't quit. She was fired. Now, the only time that she talked about an altercation between her and Julie was on the Dr. Phil show in 2019. And that was after Todd and Julie had already been indicted for tax fraud and stuff such as that. She has always claimed that she has nothing to do with that she did not work with the DOR to at any part during the investigation. But Todd also claims that he has proof that she did. He claims that the lead investigator that worked for the Department of Revenue for Georgia, that he has also written an affidavit stating that Lindsey actually did take part in this, and she did tell them information to help them and assist them in this investigation. So Lindsey still claims to this day that she did not help at all. After the podcast was released, Lindsey took to her Instagram stories to respond to some of the things that Todd claimed in the episode. While she did not directly at Todd or say that this was about Todd, what she said was that she was tired of her family talking about her. She said, for the longest time, I've tried to be their bigger person. And then I've gone through periods of times questioning what that looks like. Is the bigger person a person who walks away from conflict? Is the bigger person a person who meets conflict face to face? I've tried both approaches. If I've done something wrong, I will take accountability for anything that I've done. But what I will no longer do is sit by silently while someone continues to smear me for their personal benefit. I've been bullied online via Instagram, Twitter, and have constantly been the topic of conversations on podcast. Obviously, meaning Todd's podcast. So she noticed she did not say those are all lies. That's not what happened between me and Julie. She didn't say that. So I'm just curious if that did happen, because I do have to say, if she woke that baby up at 9 o'clock at night after that baby had went through everything to get her hair done, put to bed, been asleep for 2 hours, I completely understand why Julie would be aggravated. I would be aggravated as well. And then for her just to come off that hot, oh, I'm done with this, I'm over this, F you, F you. You very lucky you weren't talking to my mama, because my mama would have mopped the floor with somebody for saying that to her, especially in her own house. So I feel like she was kind of lucky that she got out of that house without somebody mopping the floor with her, if you know what I mean. So yeah, like I said, this is what Todd stated on his podcast. This is his recollection of what happened, and not stating it's the truth, not stating that it's a lie. In my personal opinion, I do believe this a little bit more. He says he has witnesses. He says he has the proof to back it up. So I'm going with that. I still don't think Lindsey is a terrible person. I really wish the two could come together and fix things for their family, because at the end of the day, Lindsey has one father. At the end of the day, Todd has, his oldest daughter is Lindsey. And God forbid they go through the rest of their life without talking, and then something happened to one of them. They will live with that regret. I believe they will. So yeah, you guys leave me your thoughts in the comment section below. Are you guys shocked to hear that Todd is putting it all out there? And he told us about what happened that day that Lindsey cussed her stepmom out and then stormed out of the house. Are you guys shocked to hear that, according to Todd, she did not quit the show, but she was fired? Do you guys believe this story? Leave me your thoughts in the comment section below. Make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Goodbye, everyone.